Not believe the polls. That is the topic of today's video. Good morning, everybody. Today is Wednesday, May 8th. It's the day after Stormy Daniels testified about having sex with Donald Trump and spanking him with a rolled up newspaper and all of that stuff. But that's not what we're going to talk about here today. I want to talk about these polls. I have a real problem with these polls. These polls concerning the race between Trump and Biden have been virtually deadlocked for months and months. And I don't know what to make of them because they just don't make any sense. Now, I'm not one to just dismiss polls when they give me a result I don't like. I think it's a mistake when people do that. I think you need to deal with reality. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube Shorts, this is where we need to say goodbye to you. So click the link below, watch this full video. Anyway, for those of you who remain, I think it's a mistake to just dismiss poll results that you don't like. I think you need to deal with reality. You're not doing yourself any favors by not dealing with reality. So we need to deal with reality. I just don't know what the reality is here. Because these poll results just don't make any sense to me. So let me just give you a couple of reasons why. And I know there's some polls that show Biden ahead, some polls that show Trump ahead, but take them all together and just generally speaking, it's a deadlocked race and it has been virtually unchanged for months. Although all the polls seem to have shown a bit of a bump for Biden coming out of the State of the Union, which seems to have faded away. So it's basically a tied race according to the polls. But so let me get into some of the reasons why I'm having a difficult time believing the accuracy of these polls. First of all, Donald Trump won one election. MAGA has won one election, really, 2016. Since Donald Trump was elected in 2016, he lost in MAGA Republicans lost in 2018, got destroyed in that first midterm election. Huge win for Democrats. In 2020, as we know, Donald Trump lost. In 2022, the first midterm election of President Biden's time in office. Hopefully he will have another midterm election when he is reelected later this year. But the midterm election was supposed to be a huge win for Republicans. Remember all that talk about the red wave? Well, that didn't materialize. They just barely won the House of Representatives and have since lost a couple of members. I mean, they're holding on to that body by the skin of their teeth, and it's an absolute clusterfuck over there. So they lost in 2018, they lost in 2020, they lost in 2022. They've lost virtually every special election that's been held. Democrats have won those. Democrats have outperformed in nearly every single election that we've had recently. And importantly, MAGA candidates have been losing. In that supposed to be red wave election of 2022, most of the Trump-supported lunatic MAGA candidates lost, especially at the statewide level. Lost. And, since Donald Trump lost in 2020, losing, he lost, right? He lost in 2020. Since that loss, what has happened? Well, he's incited a violent insurrection against his own government, was part of a criminal conspiracy to overthrow the Constitution and the Republic and to install himself illegally into power. He has been indicted 4 times, 88 felony counts. He's currently on criminal trial for filing fraudulent business records in connection with hush money payments made to a porn star that he was cheating on his wife with, who was at home with their newborn son. He was indicted for racketeering and conspiracy in Georgia. He was indicted for trying to overthrow the election and a bunch of associated crimes associated with that in Washington, D.C. We're currently waiting on the Supreme Court to rule on Donald Trump's ridiculous claims of absolute immunity in that case. And in Florida, he stole a bunch of government documents. Of course, he has been the luckiest man alive with respect to that case, having drawn Judge Cannon, who clearly is doing everything she can to dismiss that case or kill that case for the benefit of Donald Trump. So anyways, he's committed all these crimes. And you're telling me, and all this has come out since he lost in 2020. You're telling me that after all of that, his popularity has increased? More people support him now? I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. You know, the trajectory of these election losses for MAGA Republicans, they've lost every time or severely underperformed every time since 2016. But now when the supreme MAGA leader is going to be on the ballot, suddenly all those people who have been voting against MAGA candidates are suddenly going to vote for the supreme MAGA candidate? It just doesn't make any sense. And then we see things like this. Let me pull it up here. Indiana just had their primary. And Donald Trump won, of course. But Nikki Haley got nearly 22% of the votes in a Republican primary against Donald Trump. This is, how long has it been since she's dropped out? Well over a month. This race has been over for weeks and weeks and weeks. She's dropped out a long time ago. There's no contest anymore. And yet, 22% of Republicans are voting against Donald Trump. And yet you're telling me that he has a better chance of winning now? I mean, it just doesn't make any freaking sense. Joe Biden, while there is some problems with the lunatic wing of the Democrat Party, for the most part, he locked up the Democrat Party. There wasn't a 20 to 25% protest vote against Joe Biden in Democrat primaries and primary after primary like has been happening against Donald Trump on the Republican side. So you're telling me we have a unified Democrat Party and about a quarter of Republicans showing up long after the nomination, is virtually over. It's not officially over until they officially nominate him in July at the convention. But it's over. He's won all these primaries, and yet, with these residual lingering primaries, a quarter of Republicans are voting against Donald Trump. So you got unified Democrats, to some extent fractured Republicans, and you're telling me Trump is in position to win? It just doesn't make any damn sense. Especially when you consider how close, how evenly divided the country is, right? Poll after poll, for how long? Oh, it's razor thin, neck and neck. The last two presidential elections certainly have been. Donald Trump just barely won in 2016. Just a few dozen thousand votes in the other direction, across several states, Hillary Clinton would have been president. Same thing happened against Donald Trump in 2020. Joe Biden, the breadth of the electoral college victories belies the closeness of the race because these states are winner take all. You win by a hair, you get all of the states. The fact of the matter is, while the win for Trump in 2016 and Biden in 2020, the win was comfortable in the electoral college, really it was razor thin. Because so many of those states could easily have gone the other way with just, 10,000 votes. So it has been razor thin. So you're telling me we start out with this razor thin, evenly divided electorate, but then you have a quarter of Republicans now voting against Donald Trump in primaries, and that has no effect? bullshit. It doesn't make any sense. Now, what are these Haley voters? These people who are showing up to vote for Nikki Haley, even yesterday in Indiana, what are they going to do in November? Are they going to vote for Trump? Are they going to vote for Biden? Are they going to stay home? Are they going to write somebody in? Probably a little of all of that. But what primarily are they going to do? I don't know. That's a big question. Certainly, even if most of them hold their nose and vote for Donald Trump, because the race is so close, supposedly, because we're so evenly divided, just look at the last two presidential elections. If just a small percentage of Nikki Haley voters vote for Joe Biden or don't vote for Trump, how does Trump win in those really, really close states? He doesn't. It just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. So that's why the guy's on freaking trial. I mean, every single day we learn something about him, and it's been true for God knows how long. We learn something about him. He says something, does something that in the not too distant past would have ended anybody's political career. But for some reason, nothing seems to touch Trump. And it's just hard for me to believe. He's on trial, criminal trial, for, and what's at the heart of that trial? Nailing a porn star, cheating on his wife. This is the great hero of the Christian right? The evangelical Christians just love this guy. Cheating on his wife, banging porn stars, paying hush money to keep them quiet, filing, breaking the law, filing fraudulent business records to cover it all up. And this is going on. It doesn't have an effect with anybody? You're telling me no, it has no effect with anybody. Doesn't make any freaking sense. What else? Oh, and you get the point. I'm having a hard time believing this stuff. And I'll leave you with this. This has been kicking around in my head for a while. Sort of a theory of mine. Of course, when we talk about these polls, people will say, well, I've never been polled. Who's being polled? I mean, I've never been polled. Have you been polled? Most people I've ever spoken to about this have never been polled. So who's answering these polls? I mean, that's I don't know. But I have a theory about that. When pollsters call people, they get a lot of hang-ups, right? I'm sure. So who's actually answering? Their phone rings. I mean, everybody's got caller ID now, right? I mean, how many people are picking up their phone off of their wall with their rotary dialed phone and no caller ID? The phone just rings, they have no idea who it is. That's like 3 people. Pretty much everyone has caller ID now, right? Anyways, who's picking up? The phone rings. It's a number they don't recognize. Number one, who's picking that up? I'm not picking that up. You're probably not picking that up. But someone's picking it up. So they pick up the phone. Number they don't know. Now it's somebody wanting to poll them about politics. How many people are going to go, okay, I'll answer your questions? And how many people are going to be like, hell no, click? So my theory has to do with who's more likely to stay on the phone and answer those questions. And my theory is that Trump cultists are more likely to answer a pollster's questions. Why do I say that? Because Trump cultists are the most in-your-face people in politics right now, and they have been for years. These are the people who are putting the 10-foot Confederate flags or American flags and Trump flags on the backs of their pickups and driving around. These are the people who are putting, fuck Joe Biden's signs in their yard. These are the people on social media who can't wait to get in everybody's face and say how great Donald Trump is. I mean, the people most likely to talk politics and get in other people's face and share their opinions are Trump cultists. Most normal people now are like, I don't want anything to do with politics. I'm not talking about politics. I'm just going to go quietly vote. But I don't want to talk about politics. I don't want anyone to know. I don't need to be targeted and harassed. I don't need any of this crap. Anecdotally, I've seen this. One place it's been interesting to watch this is in my personal Facebook account. You know, these people that I've been following, you know, friends from high school and jobs and whatnot, you know, following for, I don't know, 10, 15 years there on Facebook. And they used to talk politics all the time. I used to see my friends and family and all those people posted about politics all the time on both sides. Then Trump came on the scene, and more, fewer and fewer people were posting about politics anymore. And the ones who did were just the Trump cultists. Normal people, Democrats, independents, sane Republicans, just stopped. They didn't want to get into it with these crazy Trumpers. They just stopped posting about politics. Nothing. So I hardly ever see any people on my Facebook feed post about politics anymore. Even the Trump cultists really don't much anymore. But the only people who do are the Trump cultists. And so the point is, and you probably agree with this, I'm sure, the Trump cult are the most in-your-face, outspoken political group in the country right now. And so I think if they get a call from a pollster, they can't wait to tell them that they're voting for Donald Trump. I think a lot of the other people, the normal folks, are like, I'm not taking part of this. I'm not doing nothing. I'm not answering your questions. I want nothing to do with this. So anyways, that's just sort of my theory. And if there's any truth to that at all, I mean, I have nothing to back it up. This is just me pulling stuff out of my ass. But, it's just something I've been thinking about. Seems to make sense to me. Could explain some of this. But if that's true to any degree, then it could manifest in higher poll results for Trump than they should be, right? They'd be reflecting more support for Trump in the country than there actually is if his supporters are far more likely to answer pollsters' questions and express their support for Trump than are Biden supporters and others. So anyways, that's just I don't know. I'd like to see some sort of study on that if there's any truth to that, but I've got nothing to back it up, just what I've been thinking about. Anyways, these polls they just don't make any freaking sense to me. So I don't know what to make of them. Like I said, I'm not one to just dismiss the polls. Maybe they're true. Maybe they really are accurate. In which case, that is really, really bad news for this country, regardless of the outcome. Obviously, it's far worse if Trump wins, but it's bad still. The fact that there'd be, roughly half of voters in this country, after all of this, the clear attempt to usurp the Constitution, overthrow the government, stay in power illegally as a friggin' dictator, essentially, to commit all these crimes, to be of no moral character whatsoever, whether you think he's guilty of a crime in the New York case. I mean, the man has proven over and over and over again to be a man of incredibly low character. I mean, he's a pathological liar. He's a nasty human being. And it was clear for everybody to see. After everything, all the crimes and all the insurrections and all the... to still that there'd be roughly half of people who might come out to vote, even if he loses, roughly half are going to come out and vote for that guy after knowing everything? Are the people of this country, are that many people in this country really that corrupted by politics? Has partisan politics corrupted so thoroughly that large a group of people? I mean, we've always had lunatics in this country. But they've always been at the fringe. But now that it's nearly, if these polls are to be believed, 40 to 50% of the electorate would vote for an obvious criminal who tried to end our democratic republic? I know that's redundant. All republics are democratic. But you get my point. Who tried to end our republic, tried to end our democracy? Everybody knows that he did, even if they won't admit it. And that's what makes it so bad. They know what he did. Anyway. We'll find out soon enough, right? 6 months, we'll have our answer. We will know how far gone the people are. Because really, at the end, it's not about Trump. Donald Trump, he's got a foot in the grave, okay? The guy's nearly 80. He's not in good shape, okay? He's not going to be around that long. I don't know when he's going to kick off. But he's not going to be with us 25 years from now, okay? He's not going to be around too long. If he was here in 10 years, I would be very, very surprised. The real problem is the people that support this guy. Without them, Donald Trump wouldn't be on the verge of, being in a position to become president again, potentially. None of this would have happened but for his supporters. Trump ultimately is not the problem. It's the people who support him that are the ultimate problem. So Donald Trump could choke on a cheeseburger this afternoon and, be gone. And we'd still have this problem. So, not that I'm hoping that Donald Trump chokes to death on a cheeseburger, though I wouldn't be all that upset. I would much rather Donald's fate to be that he loses the presidential election and ends up in prison for the rest of his natural life. That's what I want for Donald Trump. In fact, I want him to live a long life. I don't want him to kick off anytime soon. I would like him to be healthy enough to serve his entire 20-year sentence. So I wish him a good, healthy, at least another 20 years so he can serve that sentence in federal prison. I don't want him to get out of his prison sentence early by kicking off, right? I want him to be here for that entire sentence. So, anyways, the point is, I don't trust these polls. Maybe they're right. I just don't know what to make of them. Tell me what you think, all right? I don't know. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Recommend this channel to family and friends. I'd appreciate that. And until next time, be well, and I'll talk to you again soon.